Hey guys, Lightain here, and this is the spoilers for the movie It. If you don't want any spoilers, just don't watch this film. If you want to hear my general thoughts about this film, just click wherever the eye is. I think it's up this side, probably. And just go see the other review. So, spoilers ahead. One thing that I really wanted to talk about is the actual ending of the film. One thing that I really like is the kids are all involved for the ending. Them actually beating down Pennywise, and they're all attacking. So Pennywise would grab one child, and then one of the other guys would hit them with, like a baseball bat or something. Kept it really intense, and it made it feel so much more rewarding than the original. They feel like a group. They feel like they're working together. They feel like it does take all 7 of them in order to take down Pennywise. I really like that. I think the overall thing was well done. I like that instead of the original film had more of an emphasis on belief, where this film has an emphasis on fear or overcoming your fear. When they start overcoming their fears, and you can see it in the halfway point as well, when they start confronting their fears and saying that this is not real and that we don't have to be afraid, Pennywise loses power. So when, like I said, in the halfway point, they open up a door, it's got a half-dead chick, one of the better scary moments of the film, and then he's closes it and he's like, look, this is not real, this is not real, and then they open up the door again because they're not afraid anymore, at least less afraid. And it turns out to be the hallway instead of this half-dead girl. And Pennywise notices it. He's like in the middle of going to kill somebody, and he's like, oh crap, somebody wasn't afraid. And that actually puts some doubt into him, which causes him to get hurt for the first time, probably ever in his entire life. I like that was well done, and that I knew it was going to come back in the final fight. I was just waiting for them to do the whole "I'm not afraid of you" speech. They didn't give a speech. It was just one kid saying, "We're not afraid of you," which was okay. But the whole, like I said, the whole final fight was well done. It had the kids being afraid, overcoming their fears, and then instilling fear into Pennywise, because this is the first time he's ever been defeated, and probably his entire lifespan. He's probably never even been hurt, really. I also like that in the fight, his arms turned into the spider legs and like tried to crush one of the kids. I thought that was really cool. I don't know if that was a homage to the original creating the spider, because I don't know if the spider's in the books or if it actually happens in the books or something. But I thought that was great. Regardless of why it happened, it definitely felt like a homage to the original. The whole final fight was great. I would say that it was well worth it, but there's going to be some negative things said now. One thing that annoyed the crap out of me was Henry Bowers. Now, he's the bully kid, and he's way over the top and way too psychotic for this. I think it just annoys me because it's just so over the top, but not in a fun way. He like cuts up Ben near the beginning of the film. He was about to shoot a gun and kill one of his friends, or like if he said hold a cat, he was gonna kill a cat, and he's like, yeah, just hold it. I've got it. I'll shoot it. I'm like, man, that's psychopathic. He even kills his dad. Like, it's just crazy. I think it was a bit too much. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if it's in the books or not, but I felt like it just went too far. Where in the original it had him being a psychopath, and it was gradually getting to that point where he was going too far. This one just sort of had him already at that too far moment. And the final confrontation with him and Mike at the end just was a bit of a letdown. I knew that Mike wasn't going to die. But I was a bit surprised when he pushed Henry Bowers down this well, and he just fell down this well. It was like bad CG all the way down. I was like, wow, did they just kill him? Isn't he supposed to come back in, part 2 to try and kill them again? Wonder how they're going to explain that. Maybe they just find his body at the bottom of the well. I don't know. But that's I just don't think Henry Bowers was as good in this film. Another thing that I wasn't too big of a fan of is right near the end of the film, after they defeat Pennywise, all of the people that he had, I guess, in his hibernation thing, I don't know if he was going to eat them later or if they've been there for a while, I'm not really sure how it works, they start descending. And they make a point to talk about this, saying like, look, all those people that are floating up there, they're not floating anymore. Then what? What happened to them? We don't know. Do people find them? Are some of these people still alive? Because Bev was floating earlier in the film because Pennywise had a hold of her, but then they broke her out of it. So does that mean these other people are alive, or are they dead? Because presumably they've all seen the deadlights. Don't know. I don't know if they got out. I have no idea for anything. Like, did the authorities come? Did they find some, like, all this stuff? Like, it just, I don't know. It was just one of those weird things. It just feels like a plot point that was brought up and then right near the end of the film, and then just not resolved. I don't get it. It just was a bit weird. Another thing that I wasn't too much of a fan of is that once Bev comes back down and she's part of the group again, right near the end of the film, she mentions to the group that she had a premonition when she was inside the deadlights of the future, and she said that she doesn't really remember much, but she just remembers the fear, and she remembers that they all come back in 27 years. So it's setting up the sequel. I don't know why they did that either. It wasn't a very well written piece of dialogue. It just felt flat because it was like, yes, you're setting up the sequel, but you don't need to. Like, if you just want to come back and make It Part 2, or It Chapter 2, it's probably going to be called, and bring back these characters 27 years later, you can. You didn't have to have this future seeing prophecy thingy, or, it just felt really forced. It just felt really tacked on just to say that, oh yeah, we're gonna be coming back if this is a hit. I really didn't like it. I thought, I don't know, I just felt really tacked on. I was not a fan of that. They should have just made the pact and then left, and it leaves it open to a sequel because you know that Pennywise isn't dead. And if you've ever read the books or know the original films, then you know that they do come back as adults. So I just felt like it was just one of those things that most people won't get and most people won't really care about, and it just was really annoying to hear. One other thing that I also didn't like was Mike. He's the last kid to join their group, and I went back and checked the original movie just to see how long it took for him to join the group back then, and it takes him an hour before him as a kid is introduced and finally joins the group. In the remake, it probably takes about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes before he's in the group. So the very first scene, of course, is Georgie's death. The very second scene is introducing Mike killing cattle. It's really weird. It doesn't have really any point to the film, except to set up the fact that they used that weapon on Pennywise later. And then after that, there's an hour of the group becoming friends and everything. 4 of the kids are already friends, and then Ben becomes their friend, and then Bev, and then they hang out and they're doing stuff for a while, and then an hour later Mike finally turns up into this and becomes a part of the group, and I'm like, where the heck were you for the last hour? One thing that the books and the movie made a point, the original movie made a point to do, was the fact that when they are together as a group, that's when they have this power to stop it. That's when they can believe in each other, they can help each other out. As soon as they get separated, that's when he attacks. Now, they even make that point in this film. In the very first time they go to fight it, they split up. Half of them stay outside, half of them go inside. And then when the half that goes inside, 3 of them go into different rooms because they're dumbasses and they've never seen a horror movie before, and it separates them even further. So, and then when they all come together and they all rush in because they hear the screams and they're all together for a little bit of a fight, they hurt it and they realize that maybe being together as this group is the way to go. But I'm like, Where was Mike this entire time? He's had none of this growth with any of the characters, aside from that one scene where, well, sorry, 2 scenes before this house scene, where he was given off exposition in a pretty poorly acted scene, to be honest. And then the scene before that where they save him from being beaten up by Henry Bowers by throwing the rocks. That's all. Like, he's been in 2 scenes with these people, and now they're just all suddenly best friends, and they've got this inescapable bond. I was like, this feels forced, where the other characters met up and they became friends, and then you see them growing as friends. He's just sort of thrown in there, and I think that's probably a problem from the books, but this was definitely something that should have been fixed. So, in the original, it takes an hour for Mike to be introduced and then to become a member of the group, and he's only in the last half an hour of the film. But the difference between the original and the remake is that in the original, you have the flash forwards, or sorry, I guess all the kid stuff is flashbacks, because Mike is calling up all the other kids, no, they're adults, all the other people in the group. So he's actually the first character that you see. You learn a little bit about what's going on through him. Every time that it goes back to the present, it's him on the phone talking to one of the people. Sometimes it's cutaways to him telling them, sometimes it's just them listening to him on the phone. But regardless, Mike as a character is still in the first hour of the film. He's just not as dominant as, say, any one of the other 6, but he's still there. So because of those present time scenes, we do get to see him. We do get to see him interact with them. It's true that his kid version is only in the last half an hour of the original film, but I don't mind so much because we did get to see him and we did get to interact with him. So when he's finally introduced, it doesn't feel as forced. It doesn't feel as rushed. So yeah, it just really annoyed me. They should have had a scene after they saved him where they went out to do something, like let's go get some ice cream or just have some fun, and then soon after that do the whole, oh shiz, now we have to fight this monster thing. Just an extra scene where you showed them being friends. That's why I said in the last scene, the second half of the film doesn't have any of that friendship stuff. The scenes go fighting it for the first time and then failing, then not becoming friends for a little while, and then then Bev gets taken by Pennywise, and I don't know why he doesn't kill her straight away. It's a bit strange, but it's because she doesn't fear him. Maybe, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. And then after that, it's they go back into the house and that's the well for the final fight, and that's a really long scene. So there's not very many scenes for the end of the film, and there's definitely no bonding for Mike and the other characters. I'm like, it's pretty crappy. One other thing that I want to say, which is really actually a good thing, is that all of the scares and all of the manifestations from it into the present, into the current film, is different from the original. Each character faces off with a different sort of different thing. So in the original, like, Richie faces off against it when it's the Wolfman, because that's what he was afraid of at the time. Where in this one, Richie's afraid of clowns, so it just being himself is one of the manifestations, and he also has a clown room just to scare Richie. So I like that the scares and all of those things were different and they were all unique, so I didn't know what was coming. It kept it fresh, and I like the fact that they changed those. That's a good change. The one where Bev looks into the sink and the whole sink gets turned into blood, that was still similar to the original, but they had a new take on it. It was more threatening and it was a lot more gory. There's not too much gore in this film, which I think is good. I like gore in films, but this film didn't need to have too much gore, and it didn't. There was a couple of times, like Georgie's arm being ripped off or somebody's face getting bitten, where the gore was a little bit more than usual. So I think it had a good balance between gore and horror. But that one scene where the bathroom gets filled with blood is similar to the original, but aside from that, they're all original, which I think was good. Speaking about that bathroom scene, here's another thing that annoys me just because I remembered it. Like I said before, the whole point of the group being a group, being able to take down Pennywise, is a recurring thing from the book and the original movie. Original, because that's how I says it. So one of the things that is in the second part of the original film is a flashback to when Bev has to clean up the blood in the bathroom. Now, she says that her dad couldn't see it, and her dad can't see it in the new one either. And after he's gone, she cleans up all the blood, and she just, scrubbing away, and she does it, and she's like, thank God, because, I don't want to live in a bloody, bathroom. And then when she goes to leave and she turns around, it's all bloody again, because she did it by herself. But then all of the kids come over, Mike included, and she shows them that what happened, and they all see it and they all believe her, and they all together as a group go and clean up this mess, and it goes away. It just shows that the power of the group is what really matters here. In the reimagining, I never know what to call these things, it's different. She does have the same scene and it all gets bloody, and then she goes and gets the friends and says, like, look, my dad couldn't see it, am I going crazy? And they do see it. So it's all similar, that's okay. The difference here is that there's fewer of the group. So Richie is outside keeping watch, so that's one member down, and Mike is not even around yet. He's not even a character in this movie pretty much yet. That means 2 out of the 7 are gone, so there's only 5 people in this house actually doing something and cleaning up, and I'm like, that just sort of undercuts the theme that it has to be, the power of 7 in order to stop it. I just thought the original did that scene better than this one, so it's pretty crappy. I just thought I'd mention it. One thing I will praise about this film, this would be probably one of the last points because I'm running out of points, is that the fact that Georgie goes missing in this film. In the original one, he dies, like, they bury him and everything, and the Bill's original character arc is trying to get over the death. Where in this one, he's still in denial. He's trying to find Georgie because he still believes that he's alive and he doesn't want anybody to say differently. But the payoff, of course, is that when he finally finds Georgie at the end, he realizes that it's not Georgie. And so he starts to overcome that. And I think that's a good character arc for him. I like the change. I don't know if it was from the book or not, but I definitely like it. And I thought it was interesting. It definitely could have. I'm saying it was probably one of the better character arcs of the whole thing. Something else that they changed from the original movie is the fact that Ben is now the history buff and not Mike. So in the first movie, a lot of bad and crazy stuff happens to all the kids, and it isn't until Mike joins the group that they learn about the whole conspiracy behind it. The fact that every 27 or 30 years, whatever it is, it's 27 years, Pennywise comes back and he does, like, there's a natural disaster, a lot of people die, a lot of people go missing every 27 years. He is the one that brings this information because he's like I said, he's the history buff. It also makes sense, as a part of the narrative, that bad things happen, they don't understand, he joins, and then they do learn a little bit about him. In this film, Ben is the one that knows the history, so that already takes another thing away from Mike to make him special. So Ben is the one that does all of the history behind everything, and he already knows. So they figure out fairly early on that he comes back every 27 years and that there's a big missing persons rate and all that kind of stuff. He's the wealth of knowledge. There's also quite a few pictures and stuff around that has Pennywise in it. I'm like, how did no one put all these things together? Oh no, town's under a curse. Never mind. And it just, so that took away from Mike's character and added it more to Ben's character, and I was like, I didn't need that, because it meant that the first half of the film there was a bit more a bit more exposition, a bit more discussion about it with facts. I would have liked it if they had more of a time where they didn't understand what was going on and they were talking about it, and they just, like, as kids, instead of having all this information already at their fingertips. And then when Mike joins, he is still a history buff, then they start to learn about the history of it. Because realistically, because they had so much information at the start, if they wanted to, about half an hour into the film, they could have gone and done the final confrontation. It would have happened probably a lot earlier than when it did, but they don't. It just doesn't happen for plot convenience. They don't bring up the fact that these things happen, and they don't explore all this information straight away. They just do it in certain increments over the span of the entire film. So that was... yeah, that's probably a bit of the pacing thing. I liked this film for the most part. I think that the original is still good for what it was. I think that the kids in both versions are fantastic. I think that Pennywise is better in the original, but definitely more horrifying in the sequel because of all the things that he does. And I mean, there's some crazy stuff that he does in this film, so he's definitely more threatening, but maybe not as menacing. Maybe, I don't know. I still say Tim Curry's better. Where the final confrontation was definitely better in the remake. The original one had better. It felt like it had better pace, even though it was a shorter film. It just felt like the final third of that film was a little bit better paced than this one. I do like that some of the characters were made a little bit better or a little bit more interesting for the remake. I like that both of them had great horror and great scares. Pennywise isn't really as much of a dickhead in the remake as he was in the original. I really liked the cinematography in it. I thought that a lot of the shots were really good. A lot of the framework, a lot of the colors, because there are lots of saturation with bright, more than often it was bright reds. But I still don't buy Pennywise. He's the biggest letdown for me. If they had filmed Pennywise in a different way, maybe even with a different actor, I'm not entirely sure, then I think this could have gone better. One thing that I don't like are jump scares, and this movie had a lot more jump scares. One thing that this movie also does is more horror than the original, where the original had a little bit more of the psychological fear behind it, where Pennywise was tormenting these kids. He was talking to them. He was trying to get under their skin, and he was insulting them as well as being his usual Tim Curry charming self. This one doesn't have any of that. Nearly every scene that Pennywise is in with the kids, it's chasing after them and trying to eat them. It feels like there's a little bit less character to Pennywise in this film than there was in the old one. And I think that's it. I think I finally cracked it. I feel my brain pieces have finally clicked together. That Pennywise doesn't feel like a character so much in this film. I was reading online that this personification of Pennywise isn't actually, it's just another one of the manifestations of the Deadlights, or whatever you want to call it, whatever the force behind Pennywise is, much like the Mummy or the Werewolf or the War Veteran or whatever else he turns into over the span of these 2 different films. Pennywise is just another manifestation of that. So that's why it's a little bit more alien, a little bit more strange. He doesn't know how to walk quite right, and he's all weird and stiff. And I think that version of the character doesn't feel much like a character, and I think that's why I don't like it as much. Tim Curry had a presence. He had charisma. He had fun on set, where this was devoid of fun. It was mostly jump scares and trying to eat you. And I think that's it. I think if they had given him maybe more dialogue, even though I didn't like any of the delivery that he actually did, if they'd given him more dialogue, more tormenting, maybe I would have liked this film more. I think that's it. I think that's it. Aside from that, I would definitely still go and watch it. I would recommend, if you like horror films, if you like the original, you'll probably still like this. There's a lot to see, and there's a lot different, so it's not just like a remake of doing shot-for-shot stuff. I was a little worried that it might be, but no, it was a pleasant surprise, because a lot of it is new and different, and I didn't know what was going to happen. The lack of the adults as well. There's no flashbacks. It's all in the present, or all in the current time period. There's no flash forwards. I thought was a good idea, so that way there's no false sense of security saying, oh, I know this kid survives. There was a little bit of a fear in me saying that maybe one of the kids might die, but of course they don't. I knew they wouldn't, but also I had this tiny twinge of doubt, like maybe they were going to go and do something crazy, because it looks like they killed Henry Bowers and he's going to be in the sequel, or maybe not. I don't know, whatever they decide to do. And of course, Pennywise is still alive. So that's the end of my spoiler review. I think I rambled on long enough. So if you want to write any comments down below about the spoilers of this film, you know, getting to a little bit more nitty-gritty stuff of what you liked or disliked, or if you agree or disagree with me, write it down below and let me know. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!